Thank you for listening to the Cosmetics Business Podcast. For early access to episodes, exclusive beauty news stories, analysis, trend reports, and award-winning magazines, subscribe to cosmeticsbusiness.com. That's cosmeticsbusiness.com.
Hello and welcome to the Cosmetics Business Podcast, a monthly roundup of the biggest stories, trends and talking points in beauty. Coming to you from our London Bridge studio, my name is Sarah Parsons and I'm sitting here with fellow cosmetics business journalists
Julia Wray,
Amanda Pauley
and Alessandro Carrara.
What are we talking about this month? Well, we're going to be talking about Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty and the next generation of unicorn brands, who we expect will achieve this billion-dollar fantasy. We're also going to be talking about the hair care boom and the key brands driving this category. And we're going to unpack the status of beauty retail with the chaos at Boots. Okay, so to kick things off, let's get started with the big numbers, as they like to say in journalism school. So billion-dollar brands. So why are we talking about this now? Well, it's a story we've been meaning to get around to on last month's podcast, but we couldn't. And it's this rumours of Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty being put up for sale or an IPO, with industry sources estimating Rare Beauty to be valued at anywhere between $1 billion and $2 billion, with a 2023 revenue of $300 to $350 million. Now, Selena has dismissed these claims in an interview with Time, where Rare Beauty was named the most influential company of the year. She's denied plans to sell the brand, but is this true? Only time would tell. But it does bring into question this idea of unicorns. We had a flurry about 5 or so years ago with Glossier, Huda Beauty, Kylie Cosmetics, Anastasia Beverly Hills, and it feels like we've had a bit of a lull, as it were, recently. And perhaps we're due for another generation of unicorns. So who do you think is going to be the next one?
My chips are unpleasing, guys. I really do think that they're going to grow into a heavy contender if they keep up their pace. And I just love the fact, because Harry is so hands-off with the brand. So if he grows it to a £1 billion business with just sort of hands-off, fantastic. Honestly, just do another few sex-themed or sex-inspired perfume launches. They're going to be rolling in the money.
I think actually, yeah. I mean, the apparel's very expensive, but it's good quality, and the same with the fragrances. But it's funny because anytime he has actually stepped into the limelight with it, they've sold out of stuff, and he's only done it twice. So I imagine if they even got near the cusp of billionaire, they would roll him out into a new Instagram post, and then suddenly they'd hit the numbers because, like I say, he's done it twice in the whole time the brand's been around, and it's been super successful for them. So
I personally think that Rhode might be an interesting one to watch out for. At the moment, if you have a look at Rare Beauty, it's quite a strong portfolio. It's got it's a broader offer than Rhode is, perhaps. But, you know, dare I say it, I think that Bieber is probably even more engaged online with trend setting. Almost everything that she touches turns to gold when it comes to trends. And this obviously links in a lot now that she has the brand up and running into her products. And I think that if she can continue on that trajectory, she's bringing out a lot of stuff. The cheek blush has literally just dropped. So I think if that can continue and she can continue that momentum, I would tip her to be maybe in the next couple of years.
I think the space that's going to be interesting in terms of the billion-dollar mark is the brands that don't have a celebrity founder or an influencer founder. If you looked at Huda at the time, she's the most famous beauty influencer in the world. Kylie Jenner, obviously, and obviously, you know, we've got Harry Styles, one of the world's biggest pop stars, Hailey Bieber. But you had Glossier and Emily Weiss. While she's not really a household name, industry she's well known, but she's definitely not a celebrity in the traditional sense. The fact when Glossier made its billion-dollar mark, that was fascinating. So it's who those brands are going to be next, and my money's on Merit.
I would also put my chips in that general direction. Yeah, Merit's an interesting one because obviously as a beauty insider, I think when I became aware of Merit, I thought, this is a good brand. It's good quality. It's a real focus on the ingredients and the formulations. And the fact that these formulations are usable for kind of across generations, it's the kind of brand that is appealing to both Gen Z and their mothers. It appeals to me massively as somebody sort of flirting with the 40 mark. And there's not that many brands out there that do that as successfully as Merit. So that was kind of how I became aware of them. But then after that, I felt I saw them everywhere. They were on TikTok, they were on Instagram. They have these, fantastic little almost bunny ears bag giveaways, and you can get your kits. And I think that is, again, another really great way of getting people interested. They choose to work with really good influencers, maybe not massive names, but people who are doing these great tutorials. And honestly, it racked up the appeal for me almost as a consumer. I was aware of them, but I was like, if I was discovering this as a consumer, I would be really interested. And actually, they hooked me in. I went online and I ordered. So it works.
Personally, I think Merit's products are great. I love that they are targeting actually a lot of 35 plus women, which is a huge demographic, but they aren't going after Gen Z or younger millennials in that sense. And I was chatting to an executive from Merit earlier this year, and I asked her about if there's plans to sell the brand. She denied it.
They always deny.
They always deny it. I don't necessarily believe her, especially when they brought on a new CEO this year. And if you look at who the CEO is, his name is Philippe Pinatel, and he's worked at MAC, he's worked at Sephora. So what's that telling me? Well, that's telling me this is a man with global experience on some of the biggest brands in the world. That's telling me that Merit wants to go big. They want to scale, and they've brought this guy on board to help them do that. And how can they do that? They're going to need the money. I guess also it depends on, in terms of this unicorn status, are we talking billion valuation or are we talking sales?
Yeah, well, there isn't a definition, is there, really? It's what we make it. What do you guys think? Do you think it's sales, or do you think it's what it sells for?
I think it's sales, which holds way more validity. If you can hit sales, then yeah, you can definitely call yourself a billion dollar brand.
I mean, I might suggest that, if you could, I think people always say that if it's $1 billion brand because, the investors think it is, or is it $1 billion brand because the consumers think it is? And actually, if you're the latter, then the former will probably raise their eyebrows and take a solid look at you.
From a marketing standpoint, though, it really depends, because if you say someone like Glossier or say Merit, if they eventually become a unicorn, there's so much marketing and collateral behind that. Whereas now you have like L'Oreal, who they've jumped on the billionaire brand status, and I think Helena Rubinstein, the luxury skincare brand, which actually really surprised me that's just landed billionaire status.
That doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't it?
No, because that's super high-end market where she's operating in that brand. It's a numbers game, I guess. It's a numbers game. Those consumers probably have more, they're spending more per transaction. So I feel like it's easier to acquire that kind of level of status, because the minute you're in the premium, the super prestige, it's
less about volume.
Yes, because it's a quality purchase from consumers. They only need to buy a couple of items each time to really elevate that brand up. So I'm not surprised, but also, I mean, this is just something that we've reported this year. I don't know if they're going to achieve it, but L'Oreal is obviously trying to bring Aesop into the billionaire brand, which is interesting. And what they said about it was that they're expanding the brand's presence in China, especially, and travel retail. So they're going heavy on the retail side to try and give it that brand status, which is very interesting, because I think Rhode is a contender as well. But I think what works for Rhode is the super clever marketing that they do. Like even recently with the lip tints with the phones that they're doing in limited edition cases, where the tint matches the new phone case color. They did this whole very soft social media approach where they dropped some of the colors into some of the boxes to customers that were delivered, and customers just found them in the box and was like, what's this? Oh my God, what? My phone case is a different color. Brilliant. It blew up. And then 2 days later, they've rolled out, it's sold out. So I think it's interesting to see what avenues these brands go down to achieve that status, because I feel like with her, it's all about achieving her lifestyle, and it's the bridge between lifestyle and beauty with her, because the products are bridging the two. Whereas like with Aesop and even Elemis, British skincare brand, they've said that they're trying to achieve billion brand status, and they've been around for a very long time, but they're claiming they're well on track to do it. because they are expanding in China, where they've got 20 standalone stores now, which they've opened in the last 4 years. And then they've just opened their first standalone retail store in the UK. They've never had one here, even though they're 35 years old. And then they are setting their sights on America. And I spoke to Noella, who's the president of Alldis, and she very much kind of said, US expansion is very much on the cards, and potentially a standalone store could be on the cards there. So they are going for it too, and they've been around for a very long time. So I don't even necessarily think it's just some of the younger, more agile brands who are coming up quite speedily who are trying to do it. Some of these more long established brands want it as well. They want that unicorn status, and they're going down different avenues to try and achieve it. So it'd be amazing to see if either of those two brands that have been around a bit longer actually do get that title.
And it is hard to get. I think when there was that flurry, as I talked about earlier, it felt like there was unicorns popping up everywhere, and it felt like, the hot new brand can do this. But if you look at when Charlotte Tilbury sold, she didn't get the $1 billion status. But almost, the key word is almost $1 billion. I think if she got the $1 billion mark, we would know about it, and Charlotte Tilbury definitely would be probably wearing a unicorn horn and Pegasus wings and everything else.
And I think it would suit her.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because she is the queen of marketing.
Yeah.
Just a brand and herself, like, so cleverly. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see what brands, like I say, some of these more legacy heritage brands are going for it. It's hard. It is really hard to achieve, and I think it needs a very bespoke, dynamic approach to even get near to it.
Yeah, I completely agree, actually, with regards to you mentioning LMS and Aesop. Just because a brand is established doesn't mean it is established everywhere. It doesn't mean that everywhere is saturated. And travel retail, as you mentioned, is a really good way of doing that. I think that LMS has done incredibly well with the Chinese travel retail market and the Asian travel retail market. And I can see Aesop doing really well as well. Also with regards to kind of amenities and stuff. I don't know whether you ever go into a restaurant, you're like, oh, Aesop. So yeah, I can just see that there are areas where they can grow and build and achieve those numbers. I mean, with an eye to the far future, I mean, if we're talking 2030, I guess, one of the brands I'd be really interested to see on the back of what we were talking about with Merit is Sarah Creel Cosmetics, because she's literally only just launched, but I can 100% see this going very quickly in a very similar route.
And
to
Sarah
Merit.
Creel being the executive who worked for Estee Lauder, and she launched Bobbi Brown and Tom Ford's makeup lines.
And she was involved with Victoria Beckham as well. So yeah, this is somebody who knows their stuff. And I have to admit, I've had a little look. I would love to give it a little try. You heard it here. Please send it in. But yeah, basically, again, it's designed for over 40s. And I don't know about you guys, but there is that feeling that for that particular demographic, if something is catering to them, there's almost that sort of, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, grammar, here's your, skinny jeans. Yeah. It's not necessarily contemporary, but when you have a look at the packaging for this, it is so contemporary. You've got these kind of round pebble-like structures that you're getting a lot with. Chanel's doing this at the moment massively with its kind of Gen Z push. You've got maybe more sophisticated colour palettes. So it is very contemporary and very cool. It feels like it's not patronising the over 40s. It's really
very glamorous.
Very glamorous. And I think as somebody in that age range, or at least approaching that age range, you kind of feel, this is made for us. And it was made really well thought out as well. So I'd love to see what comes of that.
And it's interesting, again, with someone like Sarah Creel, because given her credentials, the co-founding CEO of Victoria Beckham Beauty, again, she is an industry personality. She has an incredibly strong reputation within the industry, but she's not a household name.
It's not Emily Weiss, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. And the 40-plus demographic has some of the strongest consumer spend. And you'd be silly if you didn't tap into that and realise they aren't like, your lavenders and your pearls and everything like that, and your blue rinses.
Absolutely. Like so many people I know in their 40s and 50s, they still follow fashion. They might not be led by it, but they still want the silhouettes and the materials that they are seeing on the runways, that they are seeing on the blogs. And this caters to them, and it feels contemporary. And you know what? I hate the word traditional. When people say, this is traditional, it just is a nice way of saying old-fashioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And a real bugbear of mine as well is like when marketers will say something like, the 40 plus, they just stick to their guns and they don't want to try anything new, and they buy the same mascara as they have done for the past 10 years. Like,
No.
bollocks. Because, right, I'm very much in my mid 30s, and I'm talking about my mum who's much older. She's in her 60 plus. She is the most experimental person I know when it comes to cosmetics, and so this attitude of people are just stuck in their ways, I think, is a load of rubbish.
No, I think it's almost an excuse for not catering to that demographic.
When you forget that age group or you set them aside, we do focus, I think, a bit too much as an industry on Gen Z. And obviously it's great, you know, they're the next kind of big beauty spenders or whatever. But, you know, they're not the be all and end all when it comes to fueling big growth, big unicorn growth. So,
huge unicorns.
Yeah. So Sarah Krill, yeah, like I say, it'll be interesting to see with that, because I don't think there's not many players in that space who I think are operating like she plans to.
Right. Shall we talk about hair care and the key drivers and the key brands in that category?
Haircare's having a moment, guys, isn't it? There's so much coming out. Fenty hair, Rihanna's Fenty hair just dropped recently. We had
hair
Beyonce hair care line. Mike Coulter, he played Luke Cage in the Netflix Marvel TV series.
Yeah, not a household name, but when you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, they had their mini cinematic universe, didn't they? Within on
Jessica
Netflix.
Jones. And,
He launched a hair care range with his wife for children with multi-ethnic heritage. And then L'Oreal also launched its at-home hair color device, which was a game changer. So really, there's a lot happening in hair care. Now, you know, these are some of the bigger names, but what do you guys think are some of the brands which are also pushing the category forward?
To top three.
Top three.
Okay, I had a thought about this. Where are my notes? Okay, are we doing this in a particular order?
Go for your favourite first.
Oh, okay.
That makes it harder, I see.
Yeah, so my number one is Alldis Studio. And they're actually really quite a known brand in the UK. They're 150 years old. They're a French brand, and they've recently launched into the UK. And why I love them? What I love them is because they focus on hairbrushes, and it's this idea that everything's handmade. They use boar bristles, which is an upcycled ingredient, and they have a repair service. And so it's this idea of artisan, longevity, slow beauty, and it's this idea that luxury should be long lasting and like a classic pair of shoes or a coat. And I personally see that's one of the ways that hair care tools and just beauty tools in general are going to go.
I do think that's really interesting, because I feel like we see that a lot in fashion with regards to repair services for handbags. I've got a pair of hiking boots from Dana, which again, very much the idea is that you have them for life. After 10 years, you send them back and then we'll resole them. They'll do the stitching again. And actually, when it comes to the more analog beauty tools, and that actually still accounts for a huge amount of what we use, I think, on a day-to-day basis, the brushes, the combs, etc. So yeah, that's a really nice approach, and very different to a lot of what's happening in the industry at the moment, which is that fast fashion of beauty.
So, okay, there's them. My number two is a bit divisive. I know some beauty journalists don't think this brand's going to survive, but I'm backing it. Is Type B, and that's Rita Ora's hair care brand. And why? Well, it was founded along with Anna Leahy. She's the co-founder of Vida Glow, the collagen brand. And why am I backing this? Well, it's because it has the credentials of Anna Leahy behind it. I think it does have legs. Yes, it's got Rita Ora for the star power, but the products are very good. I think the research that has gone into it, I think there is a place for aspirational hair products for thinning and hair loss. So that's my number two. My number three is JVN. And yes, I'm cheating because I'm talking about because JVN's like resurrection. It was created by Jonathan Van Ness, the celebrity hairstylist. He's best known for his starring on Queer Eye. And he created it with Amyris. Amyris was a biotech ingredients firm that went into beauty brand development and they went bankrupt. And so, but now the brand was bought by Winsong, which is an investment firm, for about not as much money as what people were thinking, about 1.2 million, something like that. It's a rather small amount, but now the brand's just having reformulations, repackaging, and I'm excited to see where it's going next.
Yeah, I completely agree with JVN. I feel like it had a bit of a hiatus during this tumultuous period and is in the process of bouncing back. I know that Jonathan is doing a lot of press tours at the moment. There's a huge amount of marketing push now, whereas it had been quite quiet. And I think that really shows that the brand is ready to kind of take it to the next level with this different group at the helm, different people backing it. So for me, I thought, JVN was on their archive by Adam Reed, was another good one. Obviously, 2 celebrity hairstylist brands there, but I'm going to take it in a celebrity direction because I've chosen Pattern by Tracy Ellis Ross. Now, I don't know maybe I'm cheating a bit here. I think it's a generous definition of new because it actually launched in 2019 with Beach House Group.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But the reason I love this, and this is a deeply personal thing for me, is that the cleansing shampoo and the lightweight conditioner have become my go-to.
Really?
My personal go-to. And they're not cheap, I can tell you this, but I am willing to put that money in there because so personally, okay, for those of you who can't see what I look like, but bear with me on this, I have 3A curls, and Pattern has been especially creative for kind of curls, coils, and what they call tight textures as well. Now, I grew up in the UK in the 1990s. The default for marketing was straight white girl hair. It just was. And I would always buy these kind of extra strength products, intense kind of spin-offs from mainstream ranges. So personally, I really like the fact that with the conditioner under Pattern, I get to opt for the lightweight version. But it's lovely. It's this rich balm texture. It doesn't weigh your hair down. I do find, obviously, as a curly girl, when there was this, I think probably about 7 or 8 years ago, there was this huge boom in products for textured hair, which quite rightly were mainly marketed towards people with afro hair and that there's tighter, coilier textures. And that's not really designed for my hair type either. I found them too heavy. So this is sort of that perfect Venn diagram in between for me. And I will go to my way to get this product. That said, with the new batch, I would really like to try Beyonce's Sacred. They have a fermented rice and rose protein ritual, which it just sounds a bit of me. I love the idea of doing a ritual like this, having a bit of a girl shower, a shower day, maybe having a
shower.
Everything shower. That's the word. I knew there was something like that. But, maybe running a bath and having a glass of something sneaky and doing that full ritual. And I think Beyonce has kind of hit the nail on the head there with something that I think a lot of people like to do right now.
Yes, I only have one because when it comes to hair care, I'm very loyal because, again, you can't see me, but I have bright red dyed hair and my hair is thick, and I find so much stuff strips my hair of its colour. And so if I try it once, it's out. Even if I think the texture's nice or it's left it soft, colour is king for me because it's spenny to get it topped up. But one brand that I did love, which Ray mentioned, was UK hairdresser Adam Reed's wellness-focused range Archive Head Care, which he launched in January 2022. It's like a gender-neutral range, very affordable. I think nothing costs more than about £13. And he's trying to make the standard kind of hair wash routine into a bit more of a self-care ritual. So take a bit of time for yourself. And I love the story behind it because he actually had a bit of a mental breakdown just from being overwhelmed by life, really, in every aspect. And then as he was focusing on his mental well-being, he was like, I really want to do something that benefits me, but also benefits the industry that I work in. But it's not even just the story and the messaging behind it. The products are really good. My favorite is the Good Habit Hybrid Oil, which is like a daily oil you can add to the tips of your hair just to keep them moisturized, give them shine without weighing them down. And the reason I picked it out is it is as good as Moroccan Oil's treatment oil, which is probably about four times the price. And I love Moroccan Oil's treatment oil. I've used it for years and years, but I have actually started investing in Archive instead because it does as good a job. So that's my big kind of thing. The L'Oreal device that Alessandro mentioned earlier, the colouring device, is very interesting because it's in the shape of a brush. So you kind of put a cartridge in, push it, and then you pull it from the root of your hair down to the tips, and the bristles move 300 times per minute, and they evenly distribute the colour through your hair. So it actually means that you can get a very even, a very nice, clean finish on your colour at home, which I actually think for people who home colour, I don't personally, but I know people who do, it's so hard getting the colour from your root to your tips the same. And it's messy as well, whereas this actually makes it easier. I think it's still very much in its abstract early days because it only has 20 hair colours, 20 cartridges. Ray, unfortunately, I don't think you and I are on the colour spectrum in this.
We're both redheads. Yeah, ever redheads.
But if this technology gets pushed further, it'd be very interesting to see how it changes the home care colour market, because it is actually something that makes it easier to do. And actually, I can imagine it'd be very good for people who have slight mobility issues as well. It'd be interesting to see how they pushed even that angle of it further. Archive's my top pick.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I haven't found the brand I'm completely loyal to. I feel like I'm really at the start of my hair care journey.
Are there any kinds of products that are on your top list?
So, which brings me on to those products.
Fantastic.
So again, I've had a lot of opportunities to try a lot of different hair care products, but the ones that have really stuck out with me and which are on theme for which I feel are going to be big and continue to grow are, first of all, K18. Which they've been around for a while, but they were recently acquired by Unilever. Big opportunity to fuel further growth. And I've just found that the products go so far in terms of value. You only need a tiny bit, and it really it ladders well. My hair feels thicker, it feels better. And
you do have luscious locks.
Thank you. And I think it's whatever they've got going on in their K18 peptides. I think it's great. It's one of those brands I just feel confident using in. And now with Unilever backing them, I just feel like they'll just propel themselves even further.
I think with them as well, it's important to note they were one of the brands that have helped to democratize bond repair, because bond repair is so important, but the big, more professional players were really operating in that realm, and it was quite expensive. So it's actually good that a brand has come in and is offering that kind of level of quality but at a lower price point, because I feel like bond repair in the last year has really blown up, but K18 were one of the first, I think, who were sort of doing it quality but at a very affordable price point.
And then another personal choice of mine is Fable and Mane. And again, they've been around for a while, but we're having this huge Ayurvedic bubble at the moment. It's the perfect time really to expand and grow for them. And it brings me on to one thing which I found on my hair care journey, is that scent is really important for me. I would even say it's more important than what's actually going into my hair roots and strengthening it. I think scent, if I can smell my hair after I've had a shower, and it's just so important. It
feels so fresh and so clean, yeah.
And Fable and Mane in particular, their scents are so good. You want to eat the shampoos. They have coconut, and it's just beautiful, and it feels tropical. It's really lovely.
And I was going to say, do check out our back catalogue of podcasts if you want to find out more about Fable and Mane as well. But you're right about the scent aspect, because especially if, like Alessandro and myself, Sarah, Amanda, we've got long hair, I feel like it stays with you all day. And it's really interesting you mentioned that, because Jonathan Van Ness has actually said that he has reformulated the scent on one of his most recent products, which to take away a kind of more deep muskiness and to make something lighter and more gender neutral. And again, it's just a case of some scents test really well with the audience and some don't. But it's all important, and it can be the difference between a successful range and one that just doesn't do as well as you think it's going to.
My final choice, and I really want them to do well, but it's California Naturals. I don't know if you remember the whole Owen Wilson, Get Ready With Me.
Yes.
So California Naturals, founded by Shelby Wild. She was founder of another hair care brand called Player. But with California Naturals, they're focusing on mass market. And the reason I want them to succeed. I loved that marketing campaign. It was fun. It was interesting. It got me interested in the brands. Again, they place a big focus on scent as well. They have a whole description box just for the scent, what you're getting with it. And I really feel if they can maybe lean into that kind of marketing more, there could be a really good opportunity to grow even further.
Speaking of mass market, should we go with our last topic of the podcast?
Absolutely. So for this podcast, I'm asking, what the hell is happening with Boots? Of course, referring to the mass, British health and beauty high street icon. So bit of exposition. There have been rumours flying around for some time now that Boots will either float or be sold, much like Rare Beauty. So in May, there was a lot of speculation that Walgreens Boots Alliance, which is, of course, the US company that owns Boots, that it might be looking to sell the chain. And the numbers that were being tossed around were around the 7 billion mark. So it would have been a huge, ginormous story had this occurred. And obviously, as journalists, we were excitedly waiting to report on this. But now WBA is musing, has decided to backtrack on this. The fact that they're musing a boot sale is not really new. There were rumblings, for example, last year that it was thinking of selling off Boots to focus on the US domestic market with Walgreens. There was also a sale which was abandoned in 2022 as well. So this is kind of a familiar story. Again, at the beginning of June, WBA confirmed it has shelved the idea of a Boots IPO, although it did say at that point that a sale was still a possibility. But now the lid is back on the box in terms of a sale as well. And WBA's CEO, Tim Wentworth, he came aboard last October. He said it would retain ownership of Boots and instead it would be overhauling Walgreens stores and closing 700 stores in the US. So to add another twist to this up and down rollercoaster ride, Boots CEO Sebastian James also exited the retailer last month, although he did tell The Times that this was not related to WBA's decision to shelve the sale and that his decision to depart was made months and months ago, which, to be fair, does ring true. These things do tend to take some time. So, Team Cosmetics business, what do we think of this flip-flopping, specifically for Boots, but also where do we think that Boots now fits in to the UK's retail landscape in 2024?
I think Boots in the UK is an institution. It's a bit like the Body Shop and so on, probably even more so because of the pharmacy connection. So this idea with health and you go to for all sorts of reasons to Boots. I think, so the 300 store closure that Boots said they're going to do, I think now that Walgreens have said they're not going to sell, I think we're going to see more store closures. I think that because they'll be saving money, they'll be looking at struggling stores. That Boots has so many struggling stores around the UK, and they haven't invested properly in their store formats in a very long time. I think as a result of that, we're going to see more store closures. I think when it comes to the beauty industry in particular, beauty is undoubtedly booming in the UK. We have an incredibly divisive but strong market here, and Boots has been so slow to the game to that. Yes, a few years ago they revamped their Covent Garden store, and now they've only just launched a dedicated Boots beauty store. And while it's lovely, it's in Battersea. It's not even in central London. It's not even in central Manchester or Birmingham. It's in Battersea. And whilst it's beautiful, it's too late to the game. And when you have Sephora popping up here, there and everywhere, Space NK popping up here, there and everywhere, and Boots is far too late.
Look fantastic also. Coming up with their first retail store.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Boots as well, failing to compete in that place, I think it's also because I think they're just very slow. I just think they were very slow when it came to e-commerce. I was reading some analysis about Boots, and word on the street was that they thought the internet was a fad. So, yeah. So that is kind of the attitude there at Boots.
I completely agree with you in the fact it does feel like they're chasing their tail. So obviously, in the midst of all these store closures we're talking about, it is in the process as well of making over its stores to focus on beauty. Obviously, you've got, as you mentioned, the beauty standalone in Battersea. It feels too little too late. But part of their chasing this, they've So they've made over 170. They're growing the footprint of another 30 of its beauty halls. And all these include things like, new furniture, trending areas, discovery stations, live demo zones. But again, this is all stuff we've seen before. And what's really interesting as well, all these kind of trending areas feel a little bit like kind of physical retail's way of trying to do TikTok live. But at the same time, you've got TikTok bringing out pop-ups with, for example, Rare Beauty as well. So again, it feels like just almost kind of chasing, but never leading the pack.
No, and that is Boots absolutely right. That's Boots' struggle. We, as a team, we all went to the launch of Sephora's UK store, and I went to the launch of Boots' beauty store. So if those who aren't aware and haven't seen on social media, Sephora's opening was crazy busy. There were queues out of the door. We were privy to go on the opening night, which was for press and some influencers. You had who's who there in beauty journalism. Mm-hmm. You had who's there in influencers as well.
You had the Sugar Babes.
Sugar Babes.
That's like Glastonbury.
Yeah. No, original lineup as well. Just to chuck that in. Yeah. It's so good.
We had to fan Amanda.
And it was busy, and there was a buzz, and there was an excitement both from consumer and industry folk alike. At the Boots store opening, it was not that.
Did they have balloons?
They had balloons. They had a DJ, the same as what Sephora did, sorry. If my memory serves me correctly, they also had drag queens. And it was this element that somebody heard what happened at Sephora and let's try and replicate that. And while yes, the store was beautiful, and it was great for me because it was quieter so I could interview more people. But in terms of buzz and industry excitement, there wasn't the same attendance. And I feel Boots just cannot get that excitement back.
Yeah, I do feel it's like punching above its weight as well, because obviously Sephora is pure play beauty, and it was hip, it's cool. It was, even before it came back to the UK, it was a destination, for example, for many people who live here, going to New York or going to Paris, go and see a Sephora. So it did have that frisson, which unfortunately I don't think Boots is ever going to catch up on. In all fairness to Boots, so one of the reasons Walgreens is shelving these plans is that Boots sales are actually up 6% for the 3 months ending 31st of May. But what's interesting is that was really led by digital, not by the in-store environment. So digital sales were up 13.8%. And that, again, that was backed by growth in app sales. And the app is really quite new. So it is a case of, actually, it's not necessarily doubling down on what it has done traditionally. It's new areas, and it should be going to new areas. But as you mentioned, is it all a bit too little too late?
Do you guys buy your beauty products from Boots? Do you go to Boots for beauty?
I do, actually. I moan about them, but I do buy them. But purely from a convenience thing. So Boots has...
They're in stores, in stations.
Yeah, Boots has an incredible footprint. I think it's something like 2,000 stores. A vast portfolio of stores, too many, arguably. And do I think they're going to give them up reluctantly? Probably they'll have to, but do I think they'll want to? No, because with Sephora and Space NK ramping up, I think that they will have to do it, but they don't want to. But it's purely from a convenience thing. I'm lucky that the St Albans store where I live is quite nice. It's got lots of the brands there, but there are far too many stores that are dull and boring and need light bulbs changing and things like that.
Yeah, I'm a Boots girly. I'm just going to say, guys, I'm saying it loud and proud. No, I like Boots, but caveat. I like the Boots stores that have everything I need, because I think the problem is there's too many stores that have been opened on high streets, and they're small, they don't carry a lot. You see the same old kind of mass brands that have been around forever. There's nothing dynamic or new going on. I'm from the southeast originally. I come from Beckenham, and the Beckenham store is dreadful, so bad. However, drive 20 minutes down the road to Bromley, and the Bromley Boots is amazing, so good. The beauty, they've done it up. It's incredible. It's got everything you need. It's got those brands. It's got some buzz. It's got some excitement. So the problem is Boots are everywhere. Too much. They're saturated in every town. So I actually think some of the store closures, not that I'm advocating for job losses and stuff, but I kind of see where they're coming from, because if you've got a very small, not quite hitting the mark store next to a massive one that's only 10 minutes away and has got a lot more going on, naturally you're going to want to funnel your investment into revamping the bigger one. But also, I think Boots have got a part to play. They are part of English culture. You know, I've got some American friends who come over and they're like, oh, I found this great place called Boots. So it's like, yeah. Because Boots really does give you a bit of everything. That's what I like about them. You've got your super affordable, you've got your mid-range, and you do have some of your high range, which they sort of did more in the last couple of years because I think they realised they needed to have a bit more of a variation. They are also bringing in new brands who are very agile, very exciting. Like they've just taken on Made by Mitchell, who's a complete TikTok shop sensation. Totally get it because no one else has tapped him up, and he does have an amazing big fan base, especially with Gen Alpha, especially with Gen Z. So I think they are making plays. They are slow. You know, talking about the app, Julia, oh God, the old app was dreadful. Like it was really bad. I remember because I used it and I ended up stopping using it. But the new app is better. It's more user-friendly, it's more intuitive, but they do need to be quicker off the mark. Because for me personally, like I like Sephora, but I don't. You asked me what the experience in a Sephora store is. I can't tell you because it's not distinctive enough for me. You go into a Space NK, I love Space NK. You go in, there's a vibe, you know what you're going in for, it delivers what it says it is. For me, Sephora, I like it, but I can get those brands anywhere else. And if I was I'm going to go on Cult Beauty online.
And that is the big thing, is the product offering the exclusivity. I agree with you, like it comes from a place of love when I moan about Boots because I want it to do well. Yeah, it's got potential, and to be honest, it really sits nicely in that middle space because I think somebody who we haven't mentioned who Boots should be really wary of is Superdrug because other places are shutting. Superdrug are ramping up. They're opening shops all over the place, and also these shops are amazing because they're filling up the high street, but with their new concept stores, which has a bit of everything. And it's just, you know, they've got those very indie niche brands. They've got their services, you know, they've got a lot going on. And that's why they're doing well, because they're opening the store concept, which they trialed and it has worked. And they've gone, right, we're rolling them out to all the big shopping centres, all the places where we know we're going to get the footfall and the traffic. Whereas unfortunately, Boots already had loads of stores and has been very slow to invest in them and revamp them. But Superdrug is the one to be worried about because they really are filling up the high street and they really are a contender. And I think they get forgotten about a little bit.
They've just opened their biggest store in Westfield Stratford. It's double the size of what it was. It's an absolute behemoth.
They've opened a lot of stores this year. I'm sure they'll open more. And they're a contender because really there's not many people fighting in that space where they're operating in. Boots naturally falls into that, but Boots also has customers who fall into the Sephora market and even those who fall into the Space NK. So they're competing with all of them, which is even harder. But, you know, I don't know. I want Boots to do well, but
they are trying. They are trying for your spend. But they're alongside Made by Mitchell, they're onboarding like it's a total, I think, 75 new beauty brands. And again, they're indie ones. You have Tree Hut, Coats, Curl Kitchen, which is Fleur and Keisha. What celebrities don't have a hair care brand? Like the list would be shorter. But yeah. So they are, again, trying to get a foothold in that space, but it does feel a little bit beatable.
Also, Boots in Ireland has Sculpted by Amy. So they are making plays for brands that aren't traditionally stocked in retailers, because again, Made by Mitchell only through his own site and TikTok shop. So I think they are trying to do that kind of exclusive play, but actually with brands that are exclusive, because like I said, I like Sephora, but I don't feel like they really do exclusives anymore because you've got your cult, anyway, you've got your Look Fantastic. Like I can go online.
I think you hit the nail on the head with regards to Sephora in the UK. And I know we're talking about Boots, not Sephora, but by the time they got here, there were already all these players online, the online space, that were offering these indie brands from around the world, K-Beauty, US, California, cool brands. And so when they arrive, I think Sephora has definitely in the UK ridden on the coattails of being that cool place to go for
because
young
Sephora
people.
is a brand within itself. Like Sephora, I think is last year, and I can't remember the company that did this research, but it was the list of the most influential brands in the world, and Sephora was the only retailer on that list.
And I'm not surprised. It's iconic, that black and white. It's absolutely iconic.
But again, you know, you're saying about Boots in Battersea. Both of Sephora's London stores are not in central London.
True, but they are in places where it's more suburban and where people can get to.
It's the same as Battersea, though. They've done that up as a shopping centre to make it a shopping destination. For me, I want a mega Sephora store right in Zone 1. and I want it to elevate it, to take it to an even another level, because I do think Sephora will do very, very well, absolutely. But I just think there's so many great players in this space already. Like I say, Cult Beauty, they're not on the high street, but they're sucking away customers from these retailers because they do have a great offering. They have a great membership. And I think they do so well. Personally, I'd love a Cult Beauty shop.
Yes, no.
And that's what I'd love on the high street.
Again, you heard it here.
Whether that's ever on their plans. But yeah, I think for Boots, they have so many contenders basically everywhere. And because they go across all of those price range, all of those customers, it's even harder.
Is it going to be like a turtle in the hair type thing? That even though Boots is going to take longer to get there, do you think they will get there in the end and maybe win out overall?
I don't think there's going to be a winner and a loser. I think there's a place for each, not to sound fluffy, but I do think there is a space for everyone and every type of retailer. I think Sephora has its space. I think Boots has its space. Superdrug, Space NK. You go into each one and you have a different experience. And admittedly, even though a lot of the brands do overlap, like I remember it got to a point where I was like, I'm sick of, for example, seeing Kylie Cosmetics everywhere. How can you have Kylie Cosmetics in Harrods as well as Boots? Yeah. I do not understand that. And so it really is about those exclusives, that key point of differentiation. And that's actually where I think Cult Beauty is kind of lacking, because that used to be the place. But then it got bought by the Hut Group at THG, and it doesn't have that same niche factor anymore, because if you were really interested in beauty, they were experts at finding those hidden gems around the world, and I think they've lost that.
I think Boots will be around. You know, they're long-standing. They are an institution. I think they'll still be here. It's just what they'll look like in, say, 10 years' time.
And whether it's going to be Boots beauty stores, which I think they will eventually have to roll them out. But we haven't even touched upon the health side of Boots. That's not our demographic. That's not our readership. So we don't do that. But if you look at Boots, we have an ageing population here in the UK. We have faith in the NHS at an all-time low. People are seeking more and more alternatives to go to your GP with ridiculously long waiting times. And so Boots has a place for that. They offer health services. The pharmacists have an incredible role to play. And so I do think that is going to be a key driver within Boots. And so that health, beauty, wellness space, how that looks will change massively. So this bit is Cosmetics Business Picks, the section of the podcast where we share our favourite products of the past month. So in no particular order, Amanda, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, so mine is Jo Malone London has created a new fragrance in collaboration with children's literary character Paddington Bear, and I just can't get enough of it. It's a limited edition scent. It's only available for 2 months, and it's inspired by Paddington's favourite snack, which is marmalade sandwiches. It's called the Orange Marmalade Cologne, and it's infused with 2 different types of natural orange, so bitter orange and sweet orange, as well as natural patchouli to add depth. And I was a bit worried at first because I thought it might smell a bit synthetic-y, but actually it's really light, very delicate. It reminds me a bit like when you take that first peel of a satsuma and you just start to get the scent. It's
fresh
just
burst.
Yeah,
right?
It's basically like that, but not overpowering at all. And I'm loving it. I actually just hope that it does so well that Jo Malone keep it on because the thought that it's going to disappear into existence after August is making me very sad, but it is absolutely lovely. And the whole reason they've done this is it's in collaboration with Paddington, because the Paddington Bear free movie is coming out in November, so it's to help drive up hype for that.
Alessandro?
Guys, I found the product that is making me wear SPF almost every day, finally. It is Glow Recipes Watermelon Glow Dew Balm in SPF 30. And it's in a stick format. It's chock full of hydrating ingredients, niacinamides, squalene, delicious watermelon scent. And literally, it's as simple as popping off the cap, rubbing it all over your face, and you're good to go, or anywhere really. And I'm so bad for this, but it's to get me to wear SPF. It's so hard. And I've actually found something that really works for me. And it's so convenient. Just pack it in your bag. Smells great. I feel not heavy. It's not sticky. Apparently I glow. You guys said I was glowing.
You do glow. It's got glow.
Yeah,
You do glow.
It's got a win for me. So yeah.
My pick of the month is Chanel's latest perfume, Comet. It was inspired by the Comet necklace line. It's beautiful. I don't know whether it actually smells like a shooting star, but if it is what a shooting star smells like, well, it's absolutely delicious. It has iris, it has cherry notes, and it's pricey. I'm not going to lie about that. I'll let you have a look at how much it costs, but it is an absolute delightful perfume, and you could easily wear it day or night. And I think it's a beautiful one to wear in the summer. Julia.
So hopping on Alessandro's protection theme, my new hybrid favourite is Pie's British Summertime Glow SPF 30. So the idea behind this formula is that it combines the last step of skincare, eye protection, with the first step of makeup. And for me, maybe not for everyone, but for me, this gives just the right amount of glow / luminosity. So it's got pearlescent mica in it for that kind of glowing effect. But obviously, no one wants to look like a disco ball, especially not every day. You don't want to look like that in the office. And I think this does the job well. So the protection aspect is from zinc oxide. It acts as a physical shield against UVA and UVB. And it has been chosen by Pie because it won't irritate a sensitive skin. It also offers a couple of skincare benefits. It's got cotton extract, and that's rich in vitamin E, antioxidants, and omega-3 fatty acids. So for me, it's great. It's a one-product slather. It's fantastic for summer when you don't necessarily want or need loads of products on your face, but when you do need sun protection and you just want a bit of oomph for your skin.
That's all now for the Cosmetics Business Podcast. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. If you've enjoyed this episode, please rate, leave a comment, share, and subscribe to the Cosmetics Business Podcast so you never miss an episode. Join us next time as we tackle the biggest stories and trends in beauty. And in the meantime, make sure to subscribe to cosmeticsbusiness.com for all of your beauty industry news and analysis. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.